Oh, we're live. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Yvonne from My Halal Kitchen, and I am here today for the beginning of a very exciting webinar series with Dr. Medea Saeed, Holistic Mom, MD. Those of you who follow My Halal Kitchen, you have probably seen us do episodes in the past, maybe a couple years ago. We did a lot of cooking at my house and talked a lot about great food, and that has led to some really wonderful developments of our working relationship together, and we're good friends. And Dr. Medea has actually helped me quite a bit in the health, in my health, my own personal health. She's a holistic doctor, but she has an extensive background. I'll let her, talk about herself in just a second, but I want to say that it's so wonderful to have you, Dr. Saeed, and I'm so excited that we're working together on this webinar series about how to empower your health by boosting and optimizing your immune system. So this is going to be just an overview today. And we're going to have at least 8 more episodes. So every Wednesday at the same time, you can tune in on both of our Facebook pages, YouTube, and what else? Where else does it broadcast? Do you know?
So it broadcasts to amazing, I think your Facebook group, and then my Facebook group, and my
Kitchen Reader,
right?
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, we are. So what is the name of your group? Holistic.
Holistic Mom MD.
That's the name of your group too, and your page.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get started. Today is going to be an hour full of information that Dr. Saeed has put together. And it's just going to be a conversation between us, talking. I have lots of questions as I've looked through her presentation. It's really awesome. And she's given me this presentation in the past. So I can tell you that it's something that I have learned to the first time around, I didn't absorb everything. So you guys can save this webinar, share it with your friends and family, and you can watch it over and over again because there's going to be a lot of information. And you are welcome to answer or ask us any questions at any time. We're not going to wait exactly to the end. If we find questions in the middle, we're going to answer them if we can. So please feel free to go ahead and just ask away. That's what we're here for today. So, Dr. Medea, I'm going to
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I'm so excited for this collaborative talk. You guys, this is going to be full of so much value. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it is. There's a lot of value here in what you're saying. So let's get started. Tell us about who you are, your medical background, just tell us about you, and then let's get started.
Yes. So I was born and raised in Naperville, Illinois. So I've been in the Midwest almost all my life. Went to South Bend, Indiana for residency. I graduated there in 2010. So yes, I have been out of residency.
You're still very young. Okay, you're still young.
No, but I've been practicing. But in residency is when I got really sick. And I was a new mom, a new wife, a new resident, all at the same time. So me and my husband were both working 80-hour work weeks. And
that's a lot.
What was crazy and amazing at the same time, when you start looking at clouds with silver linings, is that sickness then opened my doors to holistic medicine. Because when I got diagnosed with lupus and Hashimoto's and digestive issues and all of these chronic conditions, I had shingles in residency.
Oh wow! And you were still working through it.
I know.
Yeah, you're still working through it.
So when I had shingles in residency, I'm like, there's something going on here. And I went to doctor, but they weren't able to really help me. They're like, sorry, there's really nothing you can do. Just sit back and let's let this disease take its course. And I was like, I'm not going to let this disease just take its course.
Yeah.
And so that's when, right after residency, I joined this medical practice. We're under one roof. There was me, an OBGYN, an internist, an exercise physiologist, nutritionist, counseling, chiropractor, massage therapy.
Oh, nice.
All together for the complete healing.
A holistic practice then.
That's a holistic practice. And I'm like, wait, if this, this is weird. we're used to compartmentalizing everything.
Yeah.
We're used to saying, okay, you have sinus issues. Okay, that's all I'm going to deal with. You have a heart issue. That's all I'm going to deal with, right? And so I was never really taught to look at the whole picture. And then since then,
and this was in Chicago. Sorry to interrupt you. This was in Chicago, correct?
And this practice was in South Bend, Indiana.
Oh, Indiana. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I formed my own practice when I came to live closer to my family, and in Naperville, Illinois. So therefore, I'm here, and I've been practicing this type of medicine, and I'm very much passionate about food and lifestyle and the power of food and lifestyle that can, on specifically how it relates to disease and health.
Yeah, that's where we converged, right? Because when we met, I'm certainly no doctor or nutritionist, but I've been obsessed with healthy food for, maybe since my early teens. And it was really refreshing to meet you as a doctor who could say, speak to so much about nutrition and the food that I was preparing you. And I didn't really think much of it, but you kind of came in and were like, wow, this is so super healthy. And for me, it was like, I don't know, I'm just a purist. I like traditional foods. I like natural things. I don't like to mess around too much. And I really, really dislike adulterated food and anything with chemicals and pesticides. It's just been my nature. But now we're starting to see the illnesses. And then I was diagnosed as being pre-diabetic, which was really shocking considering my healthy eating. But you had told me it was related to stress. And then you helped me kind of you gave me like a holistic view of my lifestyle and said, okay, there's certain things you told me to eliminate, and she'll go over that in the presentation. But it was also this idea of, spirituality and gratitude and self-care. You really kind of, told me, you reminded me of the things I should be doing. And that's something that you don't really see in a, 10-minute typical doctor's consult. I'll be honest.
No, you don't. And that's where I really had to dive in, because remember, I think what's really important for all those that are listening to understand is that when we talk the talk, we walk the walk.
Yeah.
And you're doing it, I'm doing it, and we see benefit. When you start seeing the benefit, then we become super passionate about that. And when we talk our walk, or when we walk our talk, we're able to now help educate and empower all of you guys.
Yeah,
because that's super powerful. And I've learned a lot. And then you hear a lot of lectures, but if they're not really doing it, it's very difficult to start putting it into practical lifestyle tips. And this is why I think me and you work so well together as a team. Because I can bring some of the geekiness to this, and to you, by the way.
I can be geeky too.
You're really geeky also. The medical science behind it. And
I can't explain the science the way you do. Yeah.
Yeah, and the science. And then when we put it together with like your culinary expertise, it's like,
yeah, we have had a few good meals together. Inshallah, more to come. So Medina and I are actually working on a project together. So we hope that will be out into the world within the next year and a half or so, we're hoping. So we would love your feedback on everything that we're doing so that we can really tailor that project to all of your needs. And so she's the sort of why and the explanation of the science behind everything, and then I'm sort of putting everything into the practical food application, right? So we're a good team that way.
It's going to be a powerful series, so this is exciting. So share this, like it all, share, like.
Yeah, please share this with people. We're going to get started now, so we've had a few minutes to let people come on. We're going to start Media's presentation on the immune system and why and how you can optimize it. So share this with all your family and friends, and hopefully everybody can benefit. As many people as you really want to spread good news and good information about, or information too. Okay, so let's get started.
So I am here sharing my screen.
Can you just share your screen completely? So that we get like a really big picture?
Yes. Okay, do you see that?
Yeah. So can you choose, do the full screen?
So I think that, is it? Well, oh, completely. Okay, give me 1 second. Stop
And then if
sharing
people
that.
have questions, we can go back to seeing us.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Now I'll go back to sharing it. And when I share it, I won't be able to see the comments. So if you can take over that, Yvonne.
I will. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we'll do this one, and then I will go ahead and screen share and see how that looks, because I just see my PowerPoint then.
Yeah, if I can't see the questions, then we'll take a break after a few slides and come back.
Okay, perfect.
There you go. Oh, I can see the question. So great. Perfect.
All right. Well, let's see. I still got to print my PowerPoint. There you go. And now from the beginning. Do you see everything still? You're good?
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Oh, hey, excellent. So we are going to be talking about optimizing your immune system. And again, every Wednesday, me and Yvonne are going to come on. We're going to talk about the why and the how and have an interactive discussion. Take your questions along the way. And Yvonne's going to stop me anytime. And we're going to sit down and just have like a conversation back and forth about the power of a healthy lifestyle. And remember, this is just our disclaimers that make sure you go to your, this is not medical advice. Please seek your, physician's advice first before doing anything. But we are living right now currently in a world of fear. And this is where this fear is overpowering our every decisions. And if we can take this fear and turn it into empowerment, that in of itself will not just help us today, not with our everyday decisions, but also with our health. And so our mission today with this series is to help you go from fear to empowered. Specifically now that we're all coming out of quarantine, we're going to be interacting with the outside world a little bit more. We want to take you from fear to empowered. So this is what's really important. And this has really given us a time to reflect. Yes, we've all been in quarantine. It's given us a lot of time to reflect and to really recognize that we have been really living in a world of fear and negativity and ingratitude and hopelessness. This drives not only our everyday decisions, unfortunately, because it affects our subconscious, but what it's also doing is it's also good for the economy. So unfortunately, we are living in a world where we're not good enough until we get the next best thing. And that is really being seen now, or if we have control, that's another reason why we're just so unhappy. Most of us feel like we need to have control all day long, all night long. And when we start getting out of our comfort zones, when we start losing that control, that puts us in another world of fear and helps us, leads to losing hope. And then we've also noticed that 94% of those people that are having, complications from the virus or any other have a chronic health condition. And unfortunately, if you start looking back at the statistics, if you have a heart disease, you're 7 times more likely risk of developing complications from the virus. If you have diabetes, you're at a 3 times more likely risk. So that it's just gets higher and higher the sicker that you are. And unfortunately, the other statistics are that by 2035, 95% of the Middle Eastern and North African countries will have diabetes. Now, just think about that for a second. We are just getting sicker and sicker as a humanity. And this is where, and now with 94% of those people that are suffering from complications are sick, have a chronic condition. This quarantine time has really given us time to reflect that we can't just sit around and just wait. We can't just sit around and just wait for modern technology just to come up with either a vaccine, which will be great, or medications will be awesome to help save lives. But to really start today and start optimizing your immune system today. Because remember, this is I was there. And so if I can do it, you can do it.
Can I just say something, Medea?
Yes.
Back to what you were saying, I was I've been really surprised, by being in Turkey, for example. The food is so delicious and tasty, and there's so much available that I think in the US we sort of cry about saying, like really good food is very expensive and the organics are very expensive. But really it is, again, all about choice, because I've seen people in Turkey, with all of the great choices, there's still a lot of bad choices around food. There's a huge availability of junk food, fast food, processed, junk food, I guess, in the stores. There's a lot of that. And, it's this bombardment everywhere we go in the world of these foods that are just not real food. And people need to sort of differentiate, like, this is not a real food product, and it's going to mess with my system. And it does kind of do something to you, even mentally, I would say, when you make those choices, bad food choices. I personally that's one reason why I've steered clear of all of that, because it just doesn't make me feel good. I wouldn't be able to think straight on junk food. And so, I think I cut that stuff out 20 years ago and have never looked back. But I see, places where the availability of really great food is there, but people are interested in the packaging of food. Something looks cool to eat, and not realizing how much absolute junk is in that. Let's take halal off the table for a second. Things might be considered halal or like certified, but it's just because it's got like chemical stuff in it or synthetic products that, okay, they're not like considered like from a pork derivative or something. But I think it's just an education that people really need to understand what the heck we're eating, what the heck we're putting in our food, and what are those consequences on us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Absolutely. It's and I think this is what this quarantine time has really given us a time to self-reflect, to really be mindful of what we're actually putting in our bodies. Yeah. And really help to heal from the inside out, so that we can become more resilient. And remember, because this bad lifestyle, and that includes food, they say 11 million people die every year of a bad diet. Now that's craziness. That's crazy.
That is really insane, because it causes so many other problems, right? So
yes, and that's like a lowballing number, So this is really, really powerful stuff that stuff that we can control, because our lifestyles we can control. And yes, like there's infections out there. If it's not this infection, it'll probably be another infection. And these infections are out there, but then how are those diseases going to actually be prominent in us? Is our susceptibility to those. So if we're less susceptible to those, we are actually able to, prevent any of these complications or even exhibiting symptoms. So all of this, what we're going to talk about, will help to decrease the susceptibility, improve our immune system, and actually not even just that are today, but even because chronic disease is affecting our future. 54% of American children have a chronic health condition. And we're supposed to be we spent the most on healthcare, but we are literally number 40 something in the life expectancy and number 40 something in the literacy rate. Now, the IQs and how smart we all are, it's ridiculous.
Well, food affects your ability to concentrate, your ability to, for example, a bad diet would make you probably, feel tired and sleepy and not able to work properly or study. It seems like common sense, but I think we are really bombarded with so much information, and people don't really know how to simplify it. There's a lot for people to deal with.
Absolutely. So, and then they say by 2025, 80% of children will have a chronic health condition, and 1 in every 4 will have autism by 2033. Now, where will our world is suffering also? They say that we have 75% of our pollinator species that have died, and 1/3 of our planet has already become, like, our plant and animal species has become extinct. There are about 400 dead zones of marine life in the ocean, and each one of those dead zones, I mean, dead zones is as large as Europe.
Oh my God.
So it is just getting larger and larger and larger. Like, what is going to happen if we are getting sicker, if our children are getting sicker, if our world is suffering? The United Nations actually says that they have only 60 harvests left. Now that is mind-boggling.
60 harvests of what?
Yes, that's what the United Nations has projected. So what will happen to humanity? And larger and larger. And so what we need to do now is so getting people say that, kids can't recover, and we can't recover from these issues, but I'm actually the director of education for Documenting Hope, which is a national organization dedicated to heal chronic disease in children. And the head of this organization is a pediatric neurologist from Harvard. And we're actually healing these kids with chronic conditions, and then reverse engineering it so we can do it for everybody. But we have seen people recover, and I myself in my practice have seen people recover from autism, ADHD, Tourette's, because our bodies are not meant to tolerate the 85,000 chemicals we're exposed to on a daily basis.
85,000, where is that coming from?
So those chemicals can either come from your food, your environment. They can come from just like those toxics of the stress in and of itself.
So
because all these toxins in our bodies. Yes.
So wait, can you please go back to that? Tell me this again. This is really important. The stress that we have turns into toxic material in our body.
What stress does is it actually leads to leaky gut.
Oh.
It kills off the good bacteria, it replaces it with bad bacteria. Now, when you have increased stress, you're messing up your hormone levels. So you're basically putting things in your body that should not be there. And that just decreases your resilience from even all of these, from everything that you're exposed to even.
Yeah, the leaky gut topic is something we could do a whole series on in itself, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So even here, for all of these conditions, I'm usually the doctor of last resort, and I've helped people with all of these different conditions. So I wanted to just give people back hope that health is possible. And so, but that really starts with what is actually going on. And that is our immune system. That immune system is that army that's waiting to keep our bodies safe. Like, this tries to keep our bodies safe, waiting to make sure that you keep the bad guys out, the good guys are in. It's an army at the border. And there's 2 different types of inflammation. There's acute inflammation and chronic inflammation. Acute inflammation, so what is inflammation? Inflammation is the immune system's response to either harmful stimuli, like viruses, bacteria, toxins, injury. And acute inflammation is a good thing. So it occurs when you get a cut, or if there's a little bit of infection, like a sore throat. Your immune system starts the healing process. Everything is good. Great. End of stimulus, there's healing. But over time, chronic inflammation is too much of a good thing. And that gradually destroys this beautiful masterpiece that we were all born with. It's that hidden, smoldering, painless fire that's created by your body's immune system as it tries to fight off daily life's exposures. Stress, chronic infections, triggers, failures, and then what happens is that when you're constantly being bombarded by all of these things on a daily basis, your body now sees these as threats, and it fails to eliminate the stimulus. Your body's in constant state of alert, and that then leads to this. Basically, these cytokines that are super important. They're basically immune modulating molecules or cells in the body that are really important for inflammation and immune system. They are important for determining friend versus foe. So when they're overburdened with this constant state of immune alertness, what happens? They start going crazy. They start destroying everything in its path because now they're like so confused, and that you start to deal with chronic conditions.
So it's like our bodies really are machines, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why food stresses sometimes you can't really control. You do the best you can. There's a lot of different things that you can control, but food is one thing that we can definitely control today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Absolutely. And I can go on and on and on about the scientific benefits of, which we're going to talk a little bit about this here, about the scientific benefits of pure foods, which is not artificial, it's natural, it's real food. And in our culture, in our faith, it's actually known as Tayyib foods. So it's halal and halal. We're going to hopefully have another series on that.
Yeah.
Because that in and of itself is super powerful and is a huge piece of our faith that, to tell you the truth, Yvonne, me and you I haven't really met a lot of people who are really putting an emphasis on this.
Yeah,
our puzzle.
To translate for people who are watching and are not familiar with Tayyib, it just really basically the translation is like wholesome or like unadulterated, chemical-free, pesticide-free. So basically food that's just in its natural pure state. So when we say pure foods, that's kind of what we mean. So in the Islamic faith, the directive is to eat what is halal or permissible to Muslims, and also what is tayyib. So it's like you have a basically organic, hormone-free chicken. That's
non-GMO.
Yeah, exactly. So that is what would be considered a tayyib. But I think that's something everybody and anybody can get behind, because it's really about knowing, what is it about this papaya or this banana? Like, was it sprayed with chemicals? Was it is it GMO? We have to know these things. We cannot be blind consumers anymore, because it totally directly affects our health. And I know that there's that issue of economics. I'm not unaware of that. It hits the pocketbook, right? But the more that people demand this stuff, the more hopefully the prices will come down, because it comes down to what we value, and also supporting those farmers who don't spray the soil with chemicals, and they don't spray the foods with chemicals. The job of farmers is getting harder and harder. They may not want to do that stuff, but sometimes it's like, well, the demand isn't there for purely organic, chemical-free stuff. So you as a consumer have to demand that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's an essential part of our faith. We could discuss that later in more detail. But what is holistic medicine? To really understand this, you're like, okay, so yeah, I understand that you are a conventional. So I am a conventional medicine doctor. So I am a board certified family physician. But what truly is holistic medicine? Well, conventional medicine goes into, if you have asthma, they give you a medication. If you have something else, if you have depression, they'll give you a medication. They'll give you, if you have indigestion, unfortunately, they'll just give you a medication. So each symptom gets a different type of treatment. So where conventional medicine is amazing for acute conditions, and sometimes even amazing to really put out the fire before you control the blaze for chronic conditions, but it's absolutely necessary for acute conditions. But when it comes to chronic conditions, it really misses the boat. There's a lot of things that we have not been taught. As medical doctors, we have never been really taught on how to address the underlying root cause of asking the question, why are you actually dealing with that symptom to begin with? So if somebody has allergies, we're like, oh, why are you actually dealing with that? Or if somebody has depression, they're like, why are you actually dealing with that? Or if somebody has an autoimmune disease, why is your body attacking itself? Instead of just trying to cover it up with a Band-Aid. Because we're never really dealing with the root cause. So the root cause can, like, the reason you have the autoimmune disease, or the reason you have cancer, and the reason you have all these other chronic conditions still continues to brew. So because no one is addressing the root cause. So what is holistic medicine? Holistic medicine uses conventional treatments, but it looks at the whole person, mind, body, soul, finding the root cause. So what is actually causing your chronic condition? What is causing your immune system to weaken? And with unconditional love, using everything to really help heal the patient from the inside out. And one of the biggest pieces is inflammation, specifically for chronic conditions, and optimizing our immune system. Inflammation is basically your body off balance. So we got to put your body back into balance to heal not one of these symptoms, but then all of them simultaneously. And we have control. There's an entire study called epigenetics. And epigenetics tells us that we can turn our genes on and off just by our environment. Now, isn't that super powerful? Just by our environment and what we choose to put in our mouths can actually turn those genes on and off. Now, that's super powerful, because I remember growing up, and my people I grew up with, they were like, oh, everybody in my family has diabetes, so guess what? I'm just going to get diabetes. So let me just eat what I want.
Right, and I think also to add to that, I mean, I come from an Italian family, right? And pasta is a staple food in Italy, but there's a few things to go along with that issue in terms of eating Italian food, for example, in the U.S. Right? There's portion size, which is totally much larger here, but also the type of wheat that is used to make pasta is different. I mean, even the wheat in Turkey is different than what I find in the U.S. So
Absolutely.
there's you cannot sort of replicate the same dishes in that sense around the world, because things are different, ingredients are different, but particularly the whole wheat issue. That's another thing we could do. We could talk about for an hour, just wheat, right? Yeah, I'm serious.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's just, I mean, this is obviously just an introductory.
Yeah,
we're going to dive into the later on, because me and you are very passionate about this, but because of the fact that we're seeing the repercussions of all of these processed, artificial, genetically modified foods, and putting toxins and pesticides in our environment. I mean, all of that, and then using all these chemical cleaners, all the toxic stress and thoughts, constantly being worrying about negativity. And then, because remember, everybody in the world is telling us all the things that we're doing wrong, not the things that we're doing right. And then having the people to really pull us down, not pull us up. And all of that actually puts your body out of balance. And not even just put your body out of balance, but there's two main pieces of the decision making. And decision making the two main pieces are your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala, which is part of your limbic system. And your prefrontal cortex is responsible for like rational decision making. It's responsible for just really having a thought out decision, weigh the risks versus the benefits, where the amygdala is like the fight and flight type of decision making capabilities. And so when it really just does that fight and flight type, right? You need both of the fight and flight plus the rational decision making to really make a rational decision, to make a good decision.
That's so interesting, because
but guess what is messing these connections up? So actually, artificial food, the lack of environment, lack of getting out in nature, the lack of mindful meditation, the lack of sleep, all of these, the negativity, all of these are actually disconnecting the prefrontal cortex from the amygdala. And when we're disconnecting the prefrontal cortex from the amygdala, guess what? Our amygdala now takes over It increases the nerve cells that are in the amygdala, so it increases its connection. So now we're actually making irrational decisions. We're creating decisions versus us versus them mentality. And it really leads to everything that we're seeing in the world today.
Wouldn't you say then, people who have nutritional deficiencies would then be more prone to irrational decisions?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, there's a clear connection between nutrition and behavior. I would say, because if you just get affected by what you eat after lunch, imagine having this chronic nutritional deficiency in your body, which there's like that gut to brain connection, right? Mm-hmm. That's so fascinating. And also, I would add that every faith tradition has something of the order of like, your body is a temple. In Islam, it's your body is an amana, or a trust on you. So whatever we put into our bodies, like I'm very focused on halal, obviously, but halal is also like not just what is permissible, but what is tayyib, what is pure. We are responsible once we know that something is toxic or has chemicals on it and it could harm us. That's something we really need to think about and say, this body has a right over us, and we need to put in it what is healthy for it. So that also is related to like our thoughts and the negative news. Not to say that you're not supposed to know what's going on in the world, but there's just the chronic negativity that is, why not flip the switch and talk about positive solutions? As a society, I think we really need to do a lot of that. It's just my 2 cents. But
absolutely. No, and that's what we do. Our bodies have a right on us. We have been given blessings of health and time, and this is the best time to take care of our health, to be educated. And everybody always asks me like, because I want to let everybody know from the beginning. So my book is called The Holistic RX, Your Guide to Healing Chronic Inflammation and Disease. I have 500 plus evidence-based studies that are all found in my book. And if you check PubMed, everything there, and at the bottom of the screens, I'll have all of the some of the citations there. So it's all evidence-based. But this is what we're going to just quickly cover today. It's just quickly the components of an immune system. And me and you, we got to start with food, because that is one of the biggest pieces that we are totally overlooking, how toxic artificial food is affecting us.
And I always felt like, in other parts of the world where the focus is really on so much more on food and family time together, that just my observation, this is not a scientific study, but that people could then focus on their career, their work much better. I feel like I've had to like obsess over food as a career because culturally and societally, like, there's just not as much attention on, quality food, chemical-free food, and that family time of sitting together and having these meals. We really gotta like put things back in alignment. And I think that would do better for the next generation to say, this is in order, this is in place, and now I can go on and change the world with my career, my chosen career.
Absolutely.
Because they can think straight, right? They can think straight, they can concentrate, they can be strong. That's amazing.
And again, for those people that are Muslim, it's a huge piece of our faith. That in the Quran, we've even been told to eat pure quality, small quantity, and dense foods. So
there's a whole portion of Islam that's about prophetic food, which is the food that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used to eat. And it's a fascinating study. And we could do another, series on that, because that alone has some fascinating information that, I pull into quite a bit about, these foods. There's even many foods mentioned in Quran, and I know there's foods mentioned in the Bible. I'm sure in the Torah, in Buddhism, there's so much in every faith about
every faith. It's really big.
Yeah.
We take care of the blessings that we've been gifted.
Yes. They are truly blessings.
Huge blessing. So here we have is why does the quality of the food. So we've been talking about pure quality, real foods. Why does that even matter? Why are we are we trying and like, just focusing on organic? What's going on? Well, the quality of food is really super important because the fact that 70 to 80% of our immune system lies in the gut. We have 100 trillion bacteria that line your gut lining. Just think about that. 100 trillion bacteria that line your gut lining. These bacteria are responsible for digestion, immunity, gene expression, mood, and behavior. 90% of your serotonin and 50% of your dopamine lies in the gut.
So when we think of bacteria, a lot of people think of it as a negative thing, but there's good and bad bacteria, right?
Absolutely. And these bacteria, again, remember, we need 70% of good bacteria and about 30% bad bacteria to really keep that stable. But when we start eating artificial food, when we start, having chronic stresses and nutrient deficiencies, just like you had talked about earlier, we had environmental toxins, medications, and even infections and inflammatory foods, artificial foods, that can actually kill off some of the good bacteria, and it gets replaced by bad bacteria. And these bad bacteria don't do their job well. They let things through that should not be getting through. Right? Through the gut lining, things are getting through. But guess what? When things are getting through, 70 to 80% of your immune system goes and attacks it. And it leaves immune molecules all over the body. So if those immune molecules go to the brain, it can cause depression, anxiety, autism, headaches. If it goes to your sinus and mouth issues, it could cause frequent colds, food sensitivities, allergies. If it goes to your skin, it can cause eczema, rosacea, acne, psoriasis. If it goes to your colon, it causes digestion issues like constipation, diarrhea, bloating, arthritis, fibromyalgia, autoimmune disease, cancer. So it really does make a huge difference.
So tell me. So can you tell me something? So the bad bacteria, does it actually, you said it lets things through. So it doesn't actually like eat away at the lining of your gut. It just lets things through the gut that aren't supposed to be there. And then that's leaky gut?
So yeah. So what happens is that there's an entire world, those bad bacteria release things like lipopolysaccharides, like there's LPS that actually destroys, and even food, like the bad food that's there, the artificial food releases something called zonulin. Zonulin goes and actually cuts off those, those connections in between the cells. So there's lots of different ways.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, this really can go into a lot of we can go into a lot of detail just about how it even does that. But it can go in and just basically it just pokes holes, and it makes those connections,
and that's what causes the leak.
Yes, this LPS, zonulin, all of these things are really responsible for. And one of the main ways that you get zonulin is unfortunately through wheat. Wheat produces zonulin, and the chronic infections produce zonulin. So like again, lots of wheat.
All wheat or the GMO wheat?
Right now, what they're saying is like all sorts of different types of wheat can, because everybody they've done studies where Dr. Alessio Fasano out of Harvard published a study where basically all types of wheat can actually affect people not just with celiac disease, but there's an entire world called non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and it can actually affect everybody.
Oh my God! So that
and it actually starts to kill off brains. I mean, if we can really dive into the science of that.
That's a fascinating one to me, because I was thinking, non-GMO wheat would be okay, not because of pastas and pizzas that I like to eat, but now that's something that, because I know you were always telling me to do like the lentil pasta or the chickpea flour stuff, and so that's why you're saying that.
Absolutely, because they've done studies, and I have them all in my book, studies that have shown that it affects most of the population. There are just a very blessed amount of people that doesn't affect,
right?
But a very small amount of people. But on top of that, Another thing that I really want to address, and we can talk about that here. One, we know that it directly affects our gut bacteria, but it directly affects your brain. Alluding back to the comment that you said, all this artificial food, yes, it does. When you have nutrient deficiencies, it actually goes straight back to your brain, and it leads to mood disorders and sickness. And you actually start to crave all those white type of foods. You'll see the bigger that you are, the more, like, for example, an autistic child will only want to eat white flour, white potatoes, white rice, white sugar.
Why?
Because of the fact that what happens is that now you have an overgrowth of these bad bacteria. These bad bacteria survive off of these white foods. And so as soon as you start to introduce, that's why they hate it. They're actually, your cravings are directly linked to your gut bacteria.
Wow.
You start craving white sugary foods, white pasta. When you start having those cravings, you actually have more bad. There's more chances of more bad bacteria in your gut. Because that just wants to feed those bad bacteria, bad fungus, all of that bad stuff in your gut. That will help it thrive.
That's super interesting because, I think a lot of people relate like comfort foods, like I crave pizza and pasta when I'm stressed, but actually it could be the stress causing the bad bacteria to wanting the pizza.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go into stress again but stress actually kills off the good bacteria.
Wow. That makes sense.
It actually, when you have stress, when you have lack of sleep, you actually start to kill off some of those good bacteria, and that then makes you want to crave those sugary foods.
Wow, that right there.
To a cycle.
That is like the most empowering information right there. Like that snapshot. Could you say that one more time, just to give that to people?
Once we have, when you live in a world of stress in and of itself, one, weakens the immune system, but two, it actually kills off the good bacteria and it replaces it with more bad bacteria, and that in and of itself leads to more leaky gut, makes you crave those artificial foods that then continue that cycle.
Wow.
Stress is being managed by this, but in some cases, it can actually lead to our inability to make rational decisions. So now think about it. It's like craziness.
There's a total absolute connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then that's why when you start eating real foods and have a pure lifestyle, when you have as in a more cleaner lifestyle, what that's
meaning is that meaning knowing everything that's in the food and chemical free. That's what we mean by clean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the real foods, no chemicals, no genetically modified, eating real food can actually make that solidifies those connections between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So you're making more rational decisions. Plus, on top of that, now you're feeding the good bacteria that are now thriving, and you're able to now create those 90% of your serotonin and 50% of your dopamine to then help the rest of your body,
which would make you happier.
Yes.
Your dopamine. Absolutely. That is so fantastically eye-opening. I feel like everything is sort of related to the gut, and so if you understand this, then it's sort of like everything else can kind of fall in line. That's why we did this as an overview.
Absolutely. And then these are the foods, these artificial impurities, genetically modified foods can be harmful. There's a lot of junk out there, and toxic chemicals. I mean, if you start looking at the science behind what this food actually does, like for example, red number 40, what red number 40 actually does to your body, how it's related to all of these food colorings. It can be related to hyperactivities and tumors. I mean, that's just the beginning of this.
Right.
So all of these chemicals actually lead to disease. So same with sugar now. We can dive into a little bit more about sugar. Sugar in and of itself specifically when it pertains to the immune system, within hours after eating sugar, it disables your white blood cells. So
it disables your white blood cells. What does that
mean? It literally disables your white blood cells. Your white blood cells are one of the main immune cells that are basically help fight off the bad guys. So when you eat sugar, here we're speaking, we most of us, some of our have out of quarantine now, but some of our are still in quarantine. We're thinking, we're going to eat all these comfort foods, tons of sugar. All of that is actually weakening your immune system, lowering your IgA, so weakening your immune system, feeding sugar now is also feeding those bad bacteria, leading to more leaky gut or dysbiosis.
Yeah.
And then also what it's doing is it's now disabling your white blood cells.
Wow. So there's all these mechanisms that seem to turn on and off depending on the food that you eat.
Absolutely. And then again with also the hydrogenated oils.
Oh, those are
I know we can dive in again on how terrible those are.
Yeah, if anybody is questioning the hydrogenated oils, just Google how they're made, and you will see the process is it's horrific. And then you're putting that in your body. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Let's go with butter, olive oil, something, ghee. Anyway, we'll get into the foods later, but
absolutely
that one kind of. It is hard for people to understand because it's like a science lab when you look at the word, right? It's like a scientific material. But Google how it's made.
I mean, they literally spend millions and millions of dollars trying to genetically engineer our taste buds, right? Yeah. Just because they want us to eat more and more and more.
Because it's cheap. It's cheap to make, and then the margins on these foods are really high. So, if you think it's not economics, you're really wrong, because there's a lot of money in junk food.
Absolutely. It's terrible. And there's a lot of common food sensitivities. So a lot of people are sensitive to wheat, and because it used to be 14 some chromosomes, and now it's been genetically hybridized to be 44 some chromosomes, because people in the world are eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner wheat.
Yes.
So, and then actually at the end of the wheat growing cycle, they actually loaded up with Roundabout and glyphosate.
Roundup.
Yeah. So it's like
Roundup is a weed killer.
Yeah. So they actually kill it with, they really have to, they spray it with all these more chemicals. And then a lot of people are having a sensitivity to dairy. Why? Because of the fact that when we have raw dairy, that's a different story. It easily separates. But when you start having, when you start homogenizing it and pasteurizing it, and then now, they're literally, if it's not organic dairy, they're really shoving it with these cows and hormones, and it's just terrible. So a lot of people are developing sensitivities, unfortunately.
And also I have to say, when they start putting all this Roundup on the soil dies. So it doesn't have, soil is supposed to be full of microorganisms, and that's where we get all of our nutrition when we plant a plant, right? The plants, that's their food. And so when we've killed the soil, the plants barely survive. And then by the time we eat the fruit of that, we have a food item that doesn't have enough nutrition in it. So it's not nutrient dense the way it's meant to be. So this is literally rooted in the soil. So that's why I'm always telling people to garden themselves. Even if you put something in a pot and grow it yourself, you can put compost and you can feed that soil and you can get an organic plant, because that's where it starts.
That is where it starts. Yeah.
Because
if we see what's really going on with the world right now, a lot of these plants,
main crops,
yeah, exactly, these crops are genetically modified. And
these
if you know what genetically modified is, it's really crazy stuff. And I really wanted to go into that little story about what that is, because it just, when I learned about the story behind how they came up with this, it blew my mind. So
they eliminated all the diversity, right? So it's just these are monocrops now, and then Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Absolutely. No. Yes, you're absolutely right. Because what happens is that actually a factory used glyphosate as an industrial cleaner, industrial pipe cleaner. And so it was accidentally one day like fell on the ground, like threw it, it came on the ground and it killed all the plants. Roundabout was like, oh, or Monsanto. Oh, yeah, Monsanto's like, oh, I'm going to take this and I'm going to spray it on all the weeds. But what happened, it also killed the weeds and it killed the plants. So now they had to go in and they had to go in and genetically engineer this seed. So now the seed, once you plant it into the ground, they can spray more pesticides, more herbicides on it. So now it kills the weeds, but now there's more chemicals on the plants on top of that, so the plants don't die. But there's more chemicals on the plant, and in some cases, like corn, the corn in and of itself, they've also genetically engineered to contain something called Bt toxin. And Bt toxin actually, in the corn, it's like a.
They've injected the seed with an insecticide, so it's in the seed. It's not even on the ground. So when the bees go and the hummingbirds go and all, the dragonflies go to these plants, they stick their noses in and they get that pollen, and what happens is that they get the toxin, which is why we have a problem with wildlife dying. It's a horrific invention.
It is. And what is and then they're like, oh no, it's Monsanto's like, oh, it's not harmful for you, but actually it's harmful for our gut bacteria, because we have the same Bt toxin actually kills our gut bacteria. It destroys the gut bacteria, the lining of a gut bacteria, so therefore it kills out the good bacteria. So it destroys our good bacteria, the Bt toxin does.
And I think also when it destroys the wildlife, it's not, when you destroy an ecosystem, do we think that we're independent of the ecosystem? No, we are not. We need the bees, we need the dragonflies, we need the hummingbirds, we need them. They are so useful. And it's just, this is a really difficult topic because it really gets me going.
And then this is where, and for those that are Muslim, it's no longer Tayyib when you actually go in and genetically engineer it.
It's no longer pure and wholesome, right?
It's not no longer pure and wholesome. And then you're like, oh no, I don't need any corn, I don't need any soy. But if you eat a processed food, if you go out to eat, you're probably getting GMOs.
Yes, out to eat, the oils are not going to be, pure, unadulterated oils. Everything's got soy and corn in it.
Absolutely. It's really, really sad. And so the thing is, unfortunately, we are living our lives living to eat when we should just be eating to live. We are overindulging ourselves. All are surrounded with food. And that too, not even like the healthy food. Like, it's not like, oh, well, let's go out for a green smoothie. Most of it's like, let's go out for junk food that's going to destroy us. When we go to our houses of worship, the first thing that we're given is artificial food. Unfortunately, when I went to Hajj in Mecca, I was given artificial food. I could not eat any of the food for the entire duration of the Hajj.
I remember you sent me.
Oh, I was so upset.
Yeah.
So it's a worldwide problem, and not realizing that all of these foods are destroying our gut lining. They're destroying our hormone balance. They're destroying our immune systems. They're making us diabetic. So basically fat, age more, like we are just getting sicker and sicker and sicker as a world, and it's affecting our children. While these foods now, this is the stuff that me and you love to talk about, right? The whole foods, the real foods, those foods that contain like vitamin D. And what are those foods? Like your cod liver oil and sardines and eggs and mushrooms, zinc, super important for the immune system, pumpkin seeds, cashews, garlic, liver, spinach, eggs, lentils, grass-fed beef, lamb, vitamin C, berries, spinach, tomatoes, citrus, broccoli sprouts, broccoli, glutathione, which is a super antioxidant. You know, so it's just
yeah. We're going to be doing some in our upcoming webinars, like next week and the week after. We're going to be incorporating recipes and doing actual food to show different aspects of immunity and anti-inflammatory examples of things. So
yeah. And then again, vitamin A, we have carrots, cantaloupe, squashes, glutathione, super antioxidant, kale, cabbage, greens, mushrooms, garlic. But then let's also bring back to this, we have so many blessed antivirals in our foods. Like black seeds in and of itself is anti-cancer, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. It has a thymol, which is an antimicrobial, antiviral. They've done studies on MRSA. So again, in our foods, in our real foods, there's key to overall health.
I was so stunned when I have an olive tree in my balcony in Turkey, right off my balcony, and I picked some of the leaves and dried them, and then I made them into a tea because I read that they were antiviral. And then I realized if you go online, you can find olive leaf extract pills.
Absolutely.
So it was really interesting. Like I hadn't thought of that, but it's just the simplest thing. I was sitting there looking at it like this. There's no pesticide being thrown on this tree. Everything is like useful. The wood is useful. They make spoons out of spoons and bowls out of the olive wood. Of course, the olives, we get olives and olive oil and soap, and then the leaves we can use for tea. It's amazing. Every part of something natural can be used, and we have to get back to that.
We do really need to get back to that, because yes, those pure quality of foods help heal our gut bacteria, but what else also does is it also balances the small quantity and the pure quality of the foods that we eat affect our hormone levels. And one out of every two, now this is another crazy statistic, 1 out of every 2 people in America have either diabetes or prediabetes.
Wow.
1 out of every 2, and 90% don't even know it. And actually 88% of Americans are actually metabolically unstable.
What does that mean?
So that means that they have their insulin levels, their high blood sugar levels. There's lots of different things, cholesterol, like everything is
the body's not in balance.
The body's not in balance, absolutely. Wow. And our metabolism is like out of whack. Wow. And that is then basically leading to all prediabetes and diabetes and heart disease and strokes. All of these are metabolic disorders.
Yeah, so, I was one of them, and I'm I would say that I'm always watching what I put into my body, but stress kind of took me over the edge, and I was also eating bread. I was like eliminating pasta, but I was eating bread. A lot of, maybe not a lot, but something that might have put me over the edge.
And it could like just a little bit over the edge, right? And then thankfully you brought it back once you recognize it. And that's what's super powerful, is that it's all about empowering yourselves. That we're not telling you, oh my gosh, this is you can't reverse this irreversible condition. All of these things can be improved.
Yeah.
It starts with your everyday decisions that you can create right now, do right now, to help heal your gut and then now balance your hormone levels. Because these two hormones, specifically insulin and leptin. Insulin is a hormone for blood sugar regulation, while leptin is a hormone for satiation. When you eat excessive food, when you eat too much food, and when you eat artificial food, it actually leads to insulin resistance. And let's talk about that first also. Because when you live a balanced lifestyle, when you're eating normal food, when your stress is managed, when you're living a balanced diet, what happens is that your cells need glucose for energy. So when you eat carbohydrates, it converts to glucose. The only way the glucose can enter the cell is if it has a key called insulin. Insulin goes, opens the cell wall, and lets the glucose in. When it lets the glucose in, what happens is that now everything's working properly. I'm happy, healthy, yay, we're good. Now the cell is able to do its functions and you have energy. But what happens is that when you have, like, now just check out this glycemic load values for some common foods. Corn flakes and corn type cereals raise your blood sugar level higher than sugar does.
Why?
Because of the fact that it's more processed. The processed is, so we think, oh, this is just white flour, but the thing is this, or just, this is just, the more processed the flour is, it's basically equal to liquid sugar. It's just terrible.
The more processed is almost like the more poisonous.
Yes, absolutely. The more processed, the more poisonous.
It's so interesting because you would look at something that simple and not think anything of it, right? Just by looking at it.
Absolutely. And it's just, not even just that, these cereals have been marked by the American Heart Association as heart healthy. And like Cheerios and all these ones, but the problem is that in order to put that symbol on, they have to pay those people big money. So that's why I would not just go blindly. This is why it's super important to think about this logically and start looking at it yourself. So these artificial cereals or these more processed cereals, even though I may even say like these corn type cereals are maybe gluten-free, I guess, and it could be gluten-free, but it's still, the more processed it is it can lead to more problems. And that's why we have like shredded wheat cereals, or even like, oat cereals or corn chips or candy bars. Again, like,
everyone can watch, there's tons of documentaries on YouTube and Netflix about like sort of the economic tie between like processed foods and the money-making machine of it. Yeah,
absolutely. And so remember, look at on the other side. Look at on the right-hand side. Pumpkin, orange, watermelon, apples, lentils, carrots, grapes, even honey, banana. I mean, like, check those out.
Beautiful.
Right? Versus the real foods. Like, look at even just brown rice there, right? It's just the ones that have been less processed, it's so much better than if the more processed it's been, it actually weakens your immune system and it actually leads to higher blood sugar levels. When it leads to higher blood sugar levels, your insulin is like, it's always there. Your cell stops listening to it. And so therefore it leads to a state called insulin resistance, because your cells are not like, your insulin, your glucose is always there. I don't need to open up my channels for you. And that then leads to a state called insulin resistance or prediabetes that leads to inflammation, fatigue, irritability, brain fog, sugar cravings, carb cravings, acne, inability to lose weight. And that then leads to increased weight gain around the midsection, leading to something called leptin resistance. Leptin is a hormone for satiation that actually lets us eat more food, right? So look at these processed foods. The processed foods here, so yes, you're like, oh no, I can't afford real food. But actually, the more processed it is, the more processed it is that they actually go and inhibit your leptin. Have you ever realized why do they give you bread when they go to a restaurant? Like, that's free. Why would they give it to you? Because the more processed food actually goes and inhibits your leptin. That is a hormone for satiation. So therefore, when it's inhibited, you are not satiated. Your body doesn't know when it's 1/3 full or when it's about to even be full, because you just go over and over and over and you eat more food.
And like you said in the beginning of this talk, that basically there's a money machine behind the studies of what makes us eat more or satiate. That's an industry in and of itself. That there's studies done constantly about that, and even for kids. Not just kids. It's getting worse.
Yes, they're targeting kids. Did you know there's like some kids now have in their schools, they have like a McDonald's Monday or a Taco Bell Tuesday and a Wendy's Wednesday. Like, it's ridiculous.
Oh my God.
We are really using our children because they know companies know that when they commercialize these products to children, now they have lifelong addicts.
Basically.
I gotta be blunt here. They have lifelong addicts.
And we're the only country in the world that really is this intense in that regard. I mean, if you look at school lunch, I love the pictures of school lunches around the world because you see them in France and Italy and Japan. My goodness. I mean, I saw a documentary about the school lunches in Japan, and their nutritionists are all over, what is seasonal, what is local, and what is proper and appropriate for the brain development of the children. Like, that is how it's supposed to be, right? That's what they're feeding the kids in school. And, we have to do better. There's no way around it. I mean, this is not sustainable.
This is not sustainable. It is not sustainable at all. And, but I remember when me and you used to have our lunches together, I mean, we didn't need that much food to be satiated.
No, because it's nutrient dense, it's real food, and you really do feel like I don't really buy a whole lot of food at the grocery store. Like, one, I like things to be fresh, so I kind of go more often, which a lot of people don't like to do. But I also just don't feel the need to eat huge quantities because it's balanced, right? I'm doing a protein, lots of veggies, and some fruit. Even the fruit, I'm not really so crazy about because I don't really have a sweet tooth anymore. I don't have any.
Oh, you changed that's awesome.
Yeah, I even stopped bread, and in turkey that was hard because the bread is pretty good, but I stopped bread, and I don't do rice. I do mostly like bulgur.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
Even that, I don't crave anything like I don't really feel like I need something so filling in my stomach.
And it's an addiction. We have to tell this artificial food is an addiction. Yeah. So when your kids are in the grocery store screaming and crying in the aisle for a cookie, those kids are no longer your kids. Guess whose kids they are? They are now these sugar companies, right?
I would also venture to say pets. That's funny as that sounds. There have been so many issues with pet food. There have been recalls on contaminated pet foods. It was just horrible. Pets are getting cancers. Dogs and cats are getting cancers and stuff like that. But I know, like, for example, if I give my cat a certain treat and she goes crazy about it, like after 1 or 2 times of having it, I'm like, what the heck is in that thing? That's not normal, right? So then I even look at the ingredients in the cat food because it's like, what the hell is it? Sorry, what the heck is it? I mean, really, it's maddening. It's like, what even the animals are getting, they're getting fake food.
Yeah,
that's not right.
That's
not right. Animals,
absolutely. And I have to tell you, because I cook for a family of 8 on a daily basis, and it can go before COVID times. It could have gone to 20 people, a couple times a weekend.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of people. But I don't feed them junk. I feed them exactly what I feed them. And what's really awesome is that I'm not in the kitchen all day long because my kids and my family members are not having temper tantrums. That like feeling that, oh my God, I have to have this food, or that they call that like the hangry. They're hangry. They don't do that anymore. Like that, it's so nice that it's like you decrease the amount that so yes, it's food quality. Yeah, the food quality is you spend a little bit more money on there, but then again, sanity is all so much better.
Yeah, there's a calmness in people who, like if your food is under control, even fasting. I think fasting has really helped me calm my.
Intermittent fasting is probably the body's best defense mechanism against all of these viruses and all these things. It really optimizes your system. So it's really powerful.
That's a whole nother webinar series about
serious.
I want to ask you why, but it'll be a long answer. So I think we're
gonna go into that.
That's great.
I have one question. Somebody asked, isn't type 1? Are you talking about type 1, type 2 diabetes? Yes. So actually, what I was talking about in this previous slide here about insulin resistance and pre-diabetes, it's type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition where your body, there's antibodies that attack your pancreas that kills off your pancreas, and your body doesn't make the insulin anymore. In some cases, I have, there are studies and practitioners out there, specifically the GAPS diet, gut and psychology syndrome, Natasha Campbell. She in and of itself, she's a medical doctor in England who has reversed diabetes type 1. So it's really powerful. Food is really powerful medicine. So basically just to say. So, and food again is just part of that picture.
Yeah.
Because social health, spiritual health, there's so many benefits to positive spiritual health and gratitude, how it improves our immune system, it affects our epigenetics, it improves digestion, lowers blood pressure. And then we have and remember the spiritual health, that the best way to optimize that is immediately when you wake up in the morning, say 10 things that you're grateful for to really help change that philosophy of your subconscious, where your subconscious is mostly negative. It immediately goes to being positive.
Wow. Yeah, you taught me that. And now I do it in a journal. I do it in a journal. Like I have a specific folder or binder, notebook, where I just continuously do the 10 things as much as possible. So I put the date and then the 10 things, and then sometimes I go way beyond 10 just because it's like,
exactly.
Once you think about what you're grateful for, like, that, and it just really is amazing.
Oh, it's so powerful because then you change your subconscious. Instead of thinking immediately negative, it's more positive.
Yeah.
You have more hope. And the studies have shown that when you live a life of frustration, your heart rate variability is like all over the place. But when you live a life of appreciation, your heart rate variability is like this. It's like a nice sine wave.
Yeah.
And then we have social health. This is why I love you so much, because you need to interact with people that are going to lift you up, not drag you down.
Yeah.
You can't do it. There's nothing you can do. And that's unfortunately the kind of we're living in a world where a lot of people are trying to really throw us under the bus. You don't want to deal with those.
And when we see things like the global pandemic and the news coming out, it's very easy to fall into the the sky is falling instead of instead of the positive actions we can take to sort of reverse that story, right? So in our personal lives and as a collective society,
And it's super powerful on our immune system. It actually increases IgA, and it improves your immunity. It improves sleep. It regulates cortisol levels, balances your autonomic nervous system, releases oxytocin, will help you with the feel-good hormone. It just helps you feel good overall.
IgA, sorry, Medea, sorry. IgA is immunoglobulin A?
Yes, so it's really key and vital in your immune system.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we have is your sleep. So while we sleep, our body doesn't use much energy for anything else besides for really healing our bodies and removing toxins, balancing hormones, all that stuff. And then so sleep in and of itself, really, literally, you can heal in your sleep just by sleeping. So
that is one of the hardest ones for me because I feel like I want to be productive. I want to be on all the time, and I want to be. I think we're meant to feel guilty for even sleeping. Like I have always had really difficulty sleeping early. I'm like a night owl, and it's something I've recently reversed, and I'm sleeping better in a better bed and all of that. But I think as a society, we're meant to feel a little bit guilty, like we have to hustle. And sacrificing sleep is sort of giving you like a badge of honor. But no, don't want that.
Nope. And that's where your susceptibility to infections goes up tremendously by lack of sleep. So again, sleep is super important. And then we have a stress management. Stress leads to 80% of the complaints that come to primary care physicians. We talked a little bit about that. It really does a body no good. It's psychological impurities, it's just really all of these terrible things
Yes.
are coming into our brains every day. And if we're not living a world of mindful meditation, getting out in nature helps to decrease your stress. All of those can help to
Yes.
decrease your overall stress.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail later again. And then detoxification. Again, this is another, we can just do another 1 hour on all the chemicals that are in your environment that leads to their like endocrine disruptors and heavy metals.
Gotta clean up the house. Totally.
Yeah.
The house.
So, and how we can naturalize everything, and that will give our body more resilience to fight not just what's coming on from the outside, but now we can just focus on what's going on the inside because there's less toxins coming in from the outside.
Yeah, and my first book was called Clean Your Kitchen Green. I don't even know if you know that.
Oh, no, I don't. How cool!
Yeah, it's out of print, but I'm gonna make it into a PDF again because it was all about using all natural cleaners to clean your house because I had eczema many years ago, and that's when I sort of cleaned up my diet and cleaned up all the chemicals that I was using in the house. And I just went back to the basics, and so I wrote a little pocket book about it, and I think I might bring it back because it seems very timely right now.
Absolutely, and we definitely need that one. And remember, all of these things are free. Spirit test immediately when you wake up in the morning, say 10 things that you're thankful for is free. Meditating, mindfulness, going out in nature is all free. Social health, keeping people around you that love you. If you have to pay for your friends, then they're not good friends.
Yeah.
Sleep, free. Stress management, free. Detoxification. Now you're just swapping out equal things. So in my philosophy, I'm not spending for anything that's going to hurt me because why would I want to spend why would I want to do that? And remember that all of these things that once we start to incorporate these into our daily routine, we can have a better future. I can't even imagine where we can all be when we are feeling our 100%. Right now, if this is where we are when we're not feeling our 100%, can you imagine when we are all working together in unity? No matter your age or demographic, to lift each other up. Now add like amazing health on top of that. Where can humanity actually really go? Like that is where it's super powerful. We need to really lift each other up and help each other because we do. Sometimes I think we've been told that we don't deserve it. Oh no, there's a lot of negativity in the world right now.
Negative self-talk.
Yes. And where we're told, oh, we're not good enough for this, we're not good enough for that. So what's the point of doing this? No, you do deserve better health. And it starts with all the things that we discussed today. And then in the rest of the series, and here's like just a brief overview, but in the rest of the series, we're going to take whatever we talked about practically here. I mean, they're theoretically, we're going to put it in practical terms. And this is going to be super exciting for all of us. So we have all these fun upcoming events.
Yeah,
so exciting.
So every week at the same time, we're going to start by next week. We're going to do shopping to optimize your immune system. So we're going to go through, where you can go to find certain things, and what to buy, what to stock your pantry in. And I've learned a lot by being in Turkey about very common ingredients in both countries that are good and healthy. So some things are really universal. So if you're coming even from out of the US, I think that's going to be, all of this will be beneficial. But don't think just because we have this US experience that's the only thing we're talking about. Then we're going to go into cooking. So we're going to do breakfast and lunch ideas. Like I'm going to do one, you're going to do the other, right?
Yeah, and then remember, all these are hands-on. We're going to show you what's in our pantry. We're going to actually show you breakfast and lunch ideas.
Yeah.
This is so super excited to invite your friends and family. Yay!
Yes, and these are all going to be online just the same way you're seeing it now. In July, we're going to talk about teas to optimize your immune system. I have learned a lot about the amazing power of different teas that pretty much every culture has access to, different kinds, and all of the benefits of those. Then we're going to do snacks and desserts, kid-friendly foods, supplements. I mean, you are really good with supplements. I have to say, I always before I buy anything, I run it by her. and then an overview of all of the episodes. So then we're gonna dedicate one time just to your questions about everything. So that'll give you time to kind of catch up on all of the previous webinars and ask your questions. Yeah.
Absolutely. And remember, you can always, I'm here for you, Yvonne's here for you. We live this lifestyle. We actually walk the talk. So we are really, and we're very passionate about creating entire world change, but then obviously starting with you first.
Yeah.
And we've provided, I mean, on my website, I have this free downloads, which I have a free eating guide, a shopping list, some recipes. Yvonne has a lot more. And the healing day, what a 7-day healing week looks like, and a thriving plan. And it's free. It's like a downloadable, because people are always really confused. They're like, where do I start? And that gives me a place to help you start. My book again is The Holistic RX, Your Guide to Healing Chronic Inflammation and Disease. Me and my family come on TV, so you can catch our episodes there. And also this year, I have Adam's Healing Adventure, From Sickness to Health, coming out. And that's really exciting for children to really get on board with this. Hopefully this is the first of its series. And then next year I have one specifically dedicated to the Muslim world, the Quranic prescription, the living Quran and Sunnah to optimize health, healing, and save our future. So, and holisticmommd.com. And Yvonne.
And we're working on a book together.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's going to be basically all the stuff we're talking about here, but in book format and with tons of recipes that we test and vet for anti-inflammation and immune support. So that's I think it's going to be a really important book, and really happy that we're doing that, because we've really been working on this for several years. You know, we've been thinking about it, looking at the food and discussing. Like every time there's a dish in front of us, we're like, what are the properties of this dish? What does it do? And it's really fascinating. You know, I learned that, that's one thing I loved about, when I first learned about Turkish food from my very dear friend from Turkey. She would always present a dish with what it was good for, health-wise.
Oh, I love that.
Absolutely fascinated me, because I was like, I love a culture that will tell you like what it's good for. Why are we eating it? I mean, if you look at Ottoman cuisine, a lot of it was prepared for the seasons and for the specifications of people that they gave it to. Like if they had a health issue or needed strength for some reason. It's just fascinating. I can't go into all that detail, but that's another like passion project of mine, to really like dive into that, because there were no coincidences in why food was cooked. It wasn't just thrown together, No. I love that. That's very intentional. And I see that there's a Netflix series called Chef's Table. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent because this is the mindfulness part of it is coming out. There's a Netflix series called Chef's Table, which many of you probably know if you're into food. But there's one episode that is about a Buddhist monk. And she teaches culinary classes at a local culinary school, but she really basically lives at a monastery, and she prepares food for the other Buddhist monks. And everything that she prepares has this, like the intention behind it is powerful and amazing, and absolutely nothing will have chemicals on it or anything like that. But she goes into the state of mind that she's in when she's preparing food, and the intentionality of it, and just that why you're serving something is really fascinating to me. So I think when there's a value system behind food, it makes it so much more powerful for some reason in my mind,
No, absolutely. And I think even us as Muslims, we've been taught that everything that we put in our mouths, we should be thinking about, right? Because the worst vessel you can put it is in your stomach. That's like the worst vessel.
Right.
Right. In my house, and I know, and you do this too, every ingredient, every spice, every piece of that, culinary dish, every atom of it, basically, there's a purpose for that. And it's a healthy purpose. So if there's any part of that ingredient or that cooking cuisine that has a negative, influence in your body and on your health, then I don't even include it. Like, it's just far away. It doesn't even enter my kitchen. And I know both of us, and that's why this book that we're going to come up together, that me and Yvonne are working on together, including healing recipes from around the world. So this is really exciting.
Yeah.
And we're going to discuss all of those key ingredients that makes it a superfood. Right.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of anxiety around food, right? People, there's for many reasons. There's this idea of maybe not having enough food, because you see scarcity around the world, right? And especially when people come to the U.S., there's this abundance or this look of abundance, and so it's very easy to just kind of pile things on. And so what I would like to kind of, the message I feel is when you're eating nutrient dense food, quality food, that anxiety goes away because you are full on less because you're actually giving your body more. Anxiety really comes to, in my experience, with junk. That's where I get all the anxiety. So, I want to teach people also about learning to cook with the whole animal, right? That's where bone broths come from. That's where, not wasting. Zero waste is really about using that whole animal if you're not vegetarian or vegan, right? So I just did a video on making a whole fish a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw it, but using the whole fish, for fish broth and then for food. So these are the things that we can learn and we can empower ourselves financially and health-wise, right? Because it's really kind of, you get the benefit of the financial benefit by being healthy,
It does, and sanity-wise too.
sanity-wise.
For me, and sanity-wise also, because I don't want to be, I don't want to be dealing with temper tantrums and,
Yeah.
Well,
so do you want to take a few questions?
Yes, stop the screen share, and then we can go through some questions, and that way both of us.
Yeah, there's one I thought would be great. She's saying, Rhonda is saying, do you recommend the keto diet and wet fasting? I don't know what wet fasting is.
So wet fasting is basically when you're intermittent fasting with some water, which I usually wet fast, because I try to drink my water. Otherwise I get super dehydrated. But again, the keto diet is only okay for certain types of people, right? So if you're like a diabetic, if you're overweight, if you have the conditions called epilepsy, those are really beneficial with the keto diet. But again, I really want to emphasize this. All keto diets are not made the same. If you are doing a keto diet that is filled with processed fat and hydrogenated oils and processed meats, right, like bacon and hot dogs and all of that, that's a bad.
Yeah, whether halal or not, right?
That is a very bad keto diet. Yeah. I like to call it something called like more green, keto green. So where it's mostly like tons of vegetables, some sort of clean protein, healthy fat to keep you satiated. That's the one that I would recommend for those people that really want. But remember, it's not for everybody. Some kids need fruit. They need their carbohydrates. Right. So I don't recommend it for everybody. In some situations, especially when someone's trying to lose weight, pre-diabetic, which most of the population is. So it's all up to you. But remember, let's start with getting rid of all the junk.
Yeah, that's the same with vegetarian and vegan diets too. You can get products that are vegan, but you really have to read all the labels. I even see like really good stores, good grocery stores that I go to, and I'm looking at, things like ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, and I'm picking up the, label and I'm going, no, I'm not buying this. And I'm making my own mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup. You can make it at home.
You can.
And I mean, I'm not a not busy person. I'm busy, but I'll make a batch and, save it. And, we need a lot less than we think we do.
Yeah, we don't need that much food.
We don't need that much. We really, really don't. And you are so much more energized on less food, higher quality.
I feel better when I intermittent fast. So everybody is different.
Yeah.
So, okay. So
Maybe I should try that. I'm not really a good intermittent faster, but I may start because I'm already on a pretty good roll right now with food.
Yeah, no, for me, I try to do at least 16/8 on a regular basis as best as possible. But because I've been doing this for a very long time, now my body feels really good on 24 hours. So again, not everybody can do that. I would not start, just one meal a day. I'm okay with just eating like 4 or 5 o'clock and then just be done, and just making sure I'm hydrated the rest of the day. But again, remember, everybody's body is different. They require so many different, that's what we need to re-emphasize.
Yeah.
Everybody requires different things. And
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad because I will say, like, I feel like there's something related to DNA too. I mean,
absolutely.
I have a huge percentage of my DNA is Mediterranean, Southern European, and I do not do well on ingredients like that are not from like that region. Like when I'm in Turkey, I feel fantastic food-wise because all the foods, the fruits, the vegetables, it's like it's what I grew up eating mostly, even though I'm not Turkish, but I feel like it's the Mediterranean diet. It doesn't work for everybody. I mean, painting this brush of like Mediterranean diet for everyone, I don't really believe in that. I don't think any diet is for everybody. It really is your own body type.
Absolutely. Some people do okay with protein. Some people okay with meat protein, and the other one be okay with better with the plant protein. So again, everybody is different. You just got to, but where we really wanted to hit home today was get the artificial junk because nobody needs that.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody needs artificial anything,
Nobody needs artificial anything. Absolutely.
You can get, nutrients from different, like, it doesn't have to be, like they say, different fats. Like I don't like to cook with coconut oil. Personally, I like the Mediterranean soup, but it doesn't mean coconut oil is not great. Every region of the world has a traditional food. So it's based on where we live, what is seasonal, what is local, what's good for your body. I mean, we have to take in all of those factors and think it's again, going back to being mindful about what we put in our body. Wake up,
how we feel.
Think about it, get a pen, write things down. I mean, I've literally done that. Like, why don't I feel so great on certain things? Or why do I'm not going to feel forced to have a kale smoothie because I don't like kale. It's not part of my, I don't know, I don't like it. So I can do spinach, right? It's why we don't have to be so black and white about everything, right? We can realize that there's gray areas, and you might not like the same kind of smoothie I do, and that's fine. Why are we touting and marketing these like superfoods, the acai berry, when really it's native to South America? I'm going on a tangent because this stuff really gets me going, because I want people to feel like they don't have to spend a lot of money to be healthy and get the right foods, and they don't have to force something on themselves that they don't like. Eating healthy isn't about like being miserable.
No, and then again, remember, there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of different types of fruits and vegetables and different types of species out there of food. Yes. We're stuck with 5. So people, I know, and they're like, what? You're telling me I can't eat my wheat or can't eat my like sugar? What else is there left to eat? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, there are thousands.
Even though they've actually, reduced our variety of carrots and apples, we can still we can grow our own. You can get the seeds and grow your own stuff.
Remember, the less variety we eat, the less our microbiome, like the less variety in our microbiome, bacteria are less diverse. And the key to our health is more diversity and the symbiotic relationship of our microbiome.
I think that's why the Mediterranean diet has been so popular, because they always show that diversity, but you can get that diversity in Asian cuisine. You can get that diversity in South American cuisine.
Absolutely.
Every culture has variety. Every region of the world has some variety. So I think there's a lot to be discussed. We could go on for hours and maybe days.
But I think me and you can go and answer questions even later if you want to.
I think we should probably wrap it up.
Awesome.
And you can go online and answer anything you want. I think today most people are just kind of watching and absorbing, hopefully. So yeah, ask your questions and then watch out for us next week and stay tuned and follow Hosting Mom MD on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere, and same with my
In
halal.
my halal kitchen. Yay!
Thank you guys for being here. Yes, it'll be nice to like see you again in person.
I know, I can't wait. Bye, you guys.
Bye. Assalamu alaikum. See ya.